Should I talk here? Let's see what
It's up to you.
Okay, so we're going to test the first level shifter, truth table 1. You can see here that VBAT is 12 volts. And we have a 3.3 volt line for high. And here's OBD level shift sig 8, OBD level shift sig 5, and then car sig 5. So the first test will be, we're going to measure output here on car sig 5. The first test will be grounding both OBD 8 and OBD 5 together. And that gives 0 volts, so that's correct. And then we will put car OBD 8 to ground and OBD 5 to high. We should get 8 volts, which is close. And then we will put OBD 8 to high and OBD 5 to ground, and we get 0 volts. And then OBD 8 and 5 both to high, we should get 5 volts out. So you have 5 volts out. And that's it, so the test is complete and working.
Yep.
There we go. Okay, now we're going to test truth tables 5, 6, and 7. First I'll show you that here we have 12 volts. And then we have 3.3 volt input and a 5 volt line. And so we're going to do truth table 5. So the output of that is OBD level shift sig 3. So hook up to that. And then when car sig 2 is tied to battery, we'll get 0 volts, which is correct. And we tie it to ground, we'll get 3.3 volts. Now for truth table 6, we will tie to OBD level shift sig 7. Here's our output. And then when car sig 5 is tied to ground, we'll get 3.3 volts. We have 3.3 volts. It's tied to battery. There's battery. And we'll get 0 volts. Now we'll do truth table 7, which is OBD level shift sig 6 is the output. So we'll tie it here. And then car sig 5 and car sig 6 are inputs. So when car sig 5 is tied to power and car sig 6 is tied to ground, we'll get 0 volts output. Oh, sorry. So car sig 5 is tied to, right now car sig 5 is tied to battery and car sig 6 is tied to ground, and we get 3.3 volts, which is correct. And when I switch them and tied high to car sig 6 and a low to car sig 5, we'll get 0 volts. And that's the end of the test, so this level shifter works properly. Okay, so we're going to test truth tables 2, 3, and 4 now for level shifters. Turn this on. Okay, you can see here we have 5 volt line, the battery line 12 volts, and a 3.3 volt high line. So for our first level shifter, or first truth table will be 2. The output's hooked up. We're going to measure car sig 1. And if we apply 0 volt or ground to level shift sig 9, we will get 12 volt output. And if we apply a high signal, we'll get 0 volts. So that works properly. And in truth table 3, we'll read output of car sig 2, which is here. And if we apply a ground or a low signal to shift sig 10, we'll get 12 volts output. If we apply a high to it, we'll get ground, we get 0 volt output. And the last truth table is truth table 4. So we'll measure car sig 6. If I can find it. So if we apply a high to OBD4, we get 0 volts. If we tie it to ground, we get 5 volts. So that means that this level shifter is working properly. Okay, now we're going to test the CAN transceiver level shifters. So if we tie OBD level shifter sig 1 and 2 together into ground, the output voltage on car sig 3 should be high, which is above 2.75 volts, so we have 3.78, so that's good. And then car sig 4 should be low, which is less than 2 volts, and we have 1.1 volts. So this level shifter is working properly.